You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, nutrition, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere, anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your hosts, Dr. Justin Marchegiani and Barris Harvey, as they answer your burning health questions, as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Beyond Wellness Radio. In today's show, we are talking about intermittent fasting. We're going to give you a quick show, give you some details in the 101 on intermittent fasting. But first, I highly recommend you guys go to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can find all the links. Definitely sign up to get the updates before anyone else. If you notice, you go to iTunes. If you go to Stitcher, where you can find us, you'll get the show a little bit more in advance. If you're signed up to the newsletter, you'll see the pop-up on YouTube, and you'll see the feed on our blog first there. We're like 2 episodes in advance, so get the details first. Make sure you go to beyondwellnessradio.com and sign up. Other thing, make sure that you check out our other sites that we have, justinhealth.com, where you can find a lot of great information provided by Dr. Justin. And you can even sign up and get a free 15-minute consultation with him. If you guys know the story, the way I met Dr. Justin was by becoming a client of his. So he has a lot of great information. If you see him locally, that's also awesome as well. But you can actually see him wherever you are in the country. So make sure you go to justinhealth.com. and go to reallyhealthynow.com as well to find everything that I have. I have a lot of great food pictures as well, so I can really help you when it comes to creating great healthy dishes, but also I like to dive into the mindset and to get into how to do this real food thing and fix it in a mindset point. And then so we have other things as well, a lot of great information. So again, beyondwellnessradio.com, and you can find the links to all those there. Dr. Justin, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, also, again, my big passion is thyroid issues. So if anyone is having low thyroid symptoms, what could those be? Thinning of the outer third of the eyebrows, hair loss, cold hands or feet, fatigue, mood or memory issues, just kind of not feeling like yourself. Typically, there's a thyroid/adrenal connection there. And if you think you're one of those people, go to fixyourthyroid.com and check out the free video series so you can get more information to help improve your health.
Yeah, awesome. So what we want to talk about today is intermittent fasting. And we'll go through what is intermittent fasting, the pros and the cons, and whatnot. So to begin, Dr. Justin, what did you have for breakfast today?
Well, actually, this is perfect timing because we just figured out 5 minutes ago we were going to talk about intermittent fasting, but I'm actually intermittent fasting today. Actually, you'd call it bulletproof fasting, where I'm using Dave Asprey's Bulletproof Coffee with the MCT and the grass-fed butter. And I guess we can talk about how that plays into intermittent fasting as a means of producing more ketones, because the goal of fasting essentially is it's more of a modified protein fast where we're trying to use fat for fuel and ideally start to rev up this mechanism known as cellular autophagy, where we're starting to recycle proteins. And one of the awesome benefits is activating these really cool stem cells to kind of have an anti-aging effect.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm kind of did the same thing. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I have 6 a.m. workouts. So I woke up at like 5 o'clock and I had some chameleon cold brew with some like coconut cream. And I just had that for my pre-workout just because it's kind of hard to get the body moving when it's still dark outside. So a little bit of caffeine and had some fat because I didn't want to be, I didn't want my stomach to be growling while I was trying to work out. So
yeah.
So somewhat of a similar idea, getting some of the fats in and sustain and having some satiation while still kind of using your body's fat for fuel rather than having to go into different sources. So
yeah, I love that chameleon cold brew. I'll mix it with some grass-fed whey protein a lot, and it's just a nice way to get out and just kind of get a nice little kick.
Yeah, and it's tasty too.
It is, absolutely.
So, what's the deal with intermittent fasting? Why is it starting to become so popular? Like, or what's kind of the overall structure of intermittent fasting?
So basically, fasting is nothing more than a means of trying to modify or reduce protein intake. That's one of the key components. The reason why we want to modify and reduce protein intake is because we want to activate this mechanism known as cellular autophagy. So we want to start recycling protein. So our body will start looking at like old protein in the body or damaged protein from muscle tissue, etc., and it will start using that and recycling it. And the research shows that certain stem cells that are activated, and stem cells are like kind of your body's kind of key to staying healthy and young, right? It's like kind of like the blueprint for healthy cells. So that's kind of one of the really cool things as you modify the protein, we have this nice anti-aging stem cell effect. And now there's a couple things with that, because when we're just fasting by itself, there is a stress response to it. And a lot of people that have adrenal fatigue or having health issues or blood sugar issues or dysglycemia, they may not be able to take advantage of fasting, for instance, because they get this adrenal response. Their blood sugar drops and they don't have the ability to hold that blood sugar in a healthy place. And they get this adrenaline or catecholamine response, and they feel like anxiety, jitteriness. They may just feel just not like themselves. So that's kind of one aspect to bulletproof fasting, or I'm sorry, intermittent fasting. And then I can go into one level of fasting that I use to step it up one notch to get even better results. But I'll just stop there so you can break down some of those aspects there, Barris.
So it seems like there's different ways to fast and intermittent fast as well. There's like some specific popular type. So basically, we know that fast is not eating and breaking your fast. Usually call it, that's what breakfast is. So I think real quickly you can go into what I guess a more popular intermittent fast style would be, when you would stop eating and when you would continue to eat, and then also kind of the way that you're doing it, which is somewhat similar but a little bit easier on the body because you're sustaining some satiation. So kind of like the popular kind of stop eating maybe at dinner and not eating till lunch, and then kind of go into the way that you do it, which is somewhat similar. It's just a little bit different.
Exactly. So I basically stop eating like around 7 or 8 p.m. the night before, and then I just won't eat till 2 or 3 p.m. the next day. So it's about a 20-hour fast. Now, it's important to note, like when you go on a low carbohydrate diet, your body almost goes into that same type of fasting physiology, right? So a lot of people in this ketogenic type of mindset, they've used the term like nutritional ketosis. And I like that term because it shows that your body's going into ketosis, but it's going into ketosis while you're actually eating. So we look at like a low carbohydrate type of approach as like nutritional ketosis. And then we look at fasting or intermittent fasting or even starvation as ketosis, right? The difference between starving yourself and doing a low-calorie diet is the idea that we are sparing our muscle breakdown. So like intermittent fasting, we're tapping into some of the protein recycling benefits, which activate the stem cells, increase growth hormone, help with insulin sensitivity and leptin sensitivity. So allowing us to have to squirt out less insulin to bring glucose into our cells. That's important because the more insulin we squirt out, the more the other calories go into our fat instead of our mitochondria. So we want to take advantage of ketosis, but we don't want to take advantage of it long-term fasting or long-term starvation, because then we start eating up our muscle. So if we can do nutritional ketosis, some people may not be able to do that all the time because their activity and stress is a little too high. Some may have to cycle in and out. And then some may come in with punctuated intermittent fasting, like I recommend, where you take a day or two out of the week and you do it. Now, my biggest problem with a lot of people, especially in the bulletproof community, is they live every day on a bulletproof intermittent fasting. And I don't recommend that, because all of your brain chemicals are made out of amino acids. So if you're super stressed, you're an executive, you're doing all these different things, well, it may not be the best thing for you to live your life on a bulletproof intermittent fast.
Yeah.
Now, I still do the bulletproof intermittent fasting and or just MCT or butter in your coffee, caveman coffee. There's a lot of different, marketing things out there. But I do that, and I do it on days where I eat. And I also do it typically one day a week on days during the week. I'll choose one day to do a bulletproof intermittent fast, or every now and then I'll just do a straight intermittent fast with no food at all as a means to get that anti-aging, cellular autophagy, stem cell, insulin sensitivity, leptin sensitivity type of health benefit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you kind of break that down there, and we'll go back into it. I want to make sure we say everything a couple times for all the listeners to grab it.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So you're talking about the bulletproof fast, and so basically what's happening there is you get your coffee and butter. You can kind of do somewhat similar things with cream, but basically what you're trying to do is limit the amount of carbohydrates and protein that you get. Mostly just getting in fat, so that way you're not creating an insulin response, so that way you can continue to use your fat for fuel. Also some MCT oil as well. Almost forgot about that one. And what you mentioned was you don't do that every day, and a lot of people do that probably too often, which
Yes.
is good when it comes to calories and consuming a certain amount of fuel and getting some good fats. But at the same time, you could be lacking some nutrients if you're doing that on a daily basis. I mean, if you even if you had something as simple as eggs, bacon, and some sautéed spinach, which is a super easy breakfast to make, you're getting a lot more vitamins and minerals in that than you are with butter and coffee.
Yeah,
and
like
MCT oil. Yeah,
exactly. Like calories do matter in the perspective that if you're eating real food, all of those calories are going to have real nutrition. Where if you're eating junk food, processed food, you can eat a whole bunch of calories with no nutrition, and you can go too low on the calories, which a lot of people do when they intermittent fast, and that low calorie type of setup will cause your thyroid to slow down. It will tell your genes that you're in a stress response, and you will start making more cortisol. And when your body is low on glucose and you're having a hard time using ketones, it uses protein and some fat to go into a process known as gluconeogenesis. And gluconeogenesis is cortisol dependent. Now, that's not a big deal, but the reason why it can be a big deal is if you have adrenal fatigue and you're not spitting out more than 23 units of cortisol a day. Well, there's a problem, because then you're not going to be able to activate gluconeogenesis as well. And if you're in a stressed out response, there's a good chance that you're probably not keto adapted. So if you start jumping into your physiology and saying, hey, start burning fat for fuel, and then you don't have the metabolic background to shift because your body's not used to burning fat for fuel, and if your thyroid's already weak, and if your adrenals are already weak, then you're not going to have the mechanisms to start pushing the right hormones to switch from burning sugar to burning fat. And there can be a whole bunch of symptoms, and there can be a whole bunch of more damage that ever occurs because you're not ready yet. It's like going out and wanting to run this marathon, and you just jump into running a marathon the next day, and you're going to feel pretty crappy when that marathon's done, even if you get a chance to finish it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you one thing. That's not going to be me. I'm not going to run a marathon tomorrow because I haven't trained.
Yeah.
So, what about someone who just randomly skips meals? Is that, because I know for me, because I eat the right foods and practice a specific way, I can do that, and I can just randomly skip meals. And on some days I'll be intermittent fasting without necessarily trying to, although I don't do that often just because I've been training for sports. So how does just a randomness kind of thing come into play?
Yeah, so that's kind of like a I'm blanking on his name, Mark Sisson. Sisson talks about that a lot in his blogs, kind of like a random, hey, you're going to the airport, and let's just avoid the airport food and just fast. I think that's great. And I think if you're healthy, it's really, really good. And that's kind of what I do. Just my biggest thing is, though, all calories have nutrients, And your physiology, your Krebs cycle, the electron transport chain, all of your cells, they run off of nutrition. So if those skipping of meals happen enough where you're continually under consuming calories, and that basically all that means to me is less nutrients. It's like trying to get your car to perform better when there's less gas in the tank.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you only have enough gas in the tank for like 200 miles, but you want to take a 300-mile trip. And I guess I get the body's different because there's already storage systems in place, but the body doesn't have a whole bunch of storage for nutrition. It may have storage for glucose. It may have storage of fat in our body. It may have a storage of amino acids in our muscle tissue. It may have some storage of like vitamin A and some fat-soluble nutrients in the liver, but it doesn't have a whole bunch of storage of magnesium. Maybe in the bone, it can catabolize the bone tissue and such, but it doesn't have a whole bunch of storage of these other nutrients. So it's important to note, though, if you're continually doing that, you're not going to be getting the nutrition that you need. So I think it's great if it's sporadic. I think if you're not healthy and you know your adrenals are out of whack and you know your thyroid's out of whack, it's probably not the best time to try this. I think if you're healthy, I think it's great. Like you and me, we can do it. On my stressed out days, though, I don't do it because I don't want my blood sugar to drop. I don't want to get anxiety. I don't want to feel like I can't focus. I want to feel like I'm on point. So I know I need nutrition to run those metabolic pathways. So figure out where you're at. And my first thing is when you think you're ready to try it on a non-stressful day. Try it on the Sunday when it's like you and your wife or you and your friend and you kick back and you watch a movie in the morning or you go for a gentle walk or you're spending some quality time with your family and it's non-stressful. Try it then first.
So if you're a Raider fan like me, it's probably not a good idea to do that on Sunday because I'll be stressed out.
Yeah, you may be a little stressed.
Yeah, definitely. So if you so that's something that I like to do as well. So sometimes I'll have random, and sometimes I'll have days that I already know that I'm going to choose to do some intermittent fasting. And like you mentioned, you like to kind of do some like alternate your days, right? Where you have most of your days where you're just eating, normally when you get hungry, your 3 or 4 meals a day, and then you have other days where you'll kind of plan it out to where you can have 16 hours of not eating and an 8-hour window of when you eat. One way and we can kind of bring this in and see how this might work for some people. When I used to be a personal trainer, one of my buddies who worked out with me and he started getting some results switching a little bit into this way, he read this book called like The Warrior Diet or something like that. Yeah, and it was basically a 20-hour area of fasting and a 4-hour feed window. And basically he just devoured 1 meal a day, but it was just a giant meal.
Yeah.
And it might make a difference, maybe not that much to the macronutrient, but I know that we were training hard. So I think he just ate like everything that he made or whatever, like entire day's worth of food with a very mixed macronutrient ratio. Tell me a little bit about the warrior diet and kind of how that intermittent fasting works. And I think a lot of the IF stuff kind of sparked from there as well.
Yeah, that's the Ori Hofmeckler wrote that book, and he was interviewed on Mercola regarding some intermittent fasting stuff. A la Tim Ferriss kind of also talked about this in 4-Hour Body. But basically, if you look in the scientific literature, there's some evidence of overfeeding in a short period of time like this, that it can actually increase thyroid hormone. So I think some of the benefit that you're getting is you're getting the intermittent fasting benefit, and then you're getting this like massive calorie binge that comes in and that actually will stimulate thyroid hormone because you're just telling your body superabundance, lots of nutrition, lots of calories, and you get this thyroid effect. Now, Tim Ferriss actually referenced that in the 4-Hour Body. Now, I'm not a fan of what Tim Ferriss does for his cheat day. I think it's terrible because you get a lot of people that are gluten sensitive that get a massive inflammatory spike, cytokines and interleukins, it takes 4 or 5 days to come back down from it. And then another day or two later, you'll be back on your cheat day. So you constantly live in this 80% window where you're just constantly inflamed. And then this 10 or 20% window of like you finally get back on track. And then the cheat day is the next day. And then it's like another binge. And then if you're gluten sensitive, which the majority of the population are, there's research showing those antibodies can stay elevated for up to 6 months. So I don't recommend the Tim Ferriss type of binge, but I think that can be very helpful if you're choosing anti-inflammatory foods and staying away from, crazy food allergens. That can be good. Like I had a nice little binge on Saturday. Like I had sliders, like grass-fed burger sliders with lettuce for a bun. I had like a Moscow Mule. I had some dark chocolate. I had a kombucha. I had a Hail Mary tart. All pretty hypoallergenic, maybe a little bit higher in some of the carbs, but I did a Tabata and I did some kettlebell swings in between just to keep my GLUT4 receptors up so I could suck in that blood sugar so I wouldn't get a massive blood sugar dip. But I felt my blood sugar a little wonky where when you're used to feeling so good and you feel that just a little bit of an underlying jitter and anxiety, you're like, man, it's not worth it, because when you're so used to feeling good, it's like driving around like an Lexus or like a Tesla or a really nice car, and then you jump back into a Honda and you're like, hey, it's a good ride. Nothing wrong with driving a Honda, right? I mean, I drove a Honda for years, but then when you go away from, when it's not quite a Lexus though. And when you're used to driving a Lexus, it's like, you don't quite want to compromise. So that's kind of my analogy with performance. Once you get to that high level, it's like you're not quite ready to go back to that.
Yeah, exactly. So the recommendation is not to go to Little Caesars and get 2 $5 pizzas and eat those.
Yeah, I mean, like for instance, I'm not saying you got to be a health zealot. There are some people out there that can afford to cheat a little bit, but hey, go to BJ's Brewery and get their gluten-free pizza that's made out of rice flour. If you're a Paul Jaminet person, right? Hey, that's a safe starch. Now, there's potential cross-reactivity for some people, and it's high glycemic and could cause blood sugar swings. But hey, good, better, best. Is it better than going to Little Caesars? Hell yeah.
Yeah. It probably tastes a lot better as well, too.
Yeah, you feel a heck of a lot better afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm still suffering from I've got a little skin lesion on my chest from where I got exposed to gluten 2 weeks ago. And I just sit at it I'm like, oh man, it's just a reminder, like I got gluten. I don't even think it was gluten. I think it was corn gluten. So it's like, that's technically gluten-free. So I just, those are just nice little reminders for me not to be even more perfect sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So because you talked about the, like when we splurge and have like this binge, you can have some elevation of some thyroid hormone. What would you say some of the negative or some of the cons of intermittent fasting might be?
Barris, I just want you to just take 1 minute here just to talk about your experience with intermittent fasting, okay?
Oh, awesome. So I've done some of the bulletproof type intermittent fasting, and I haven't really used Dave's coffee per se, but I've done like the idea sometimes even just using chai tea, just because it tastes so much better to me. I'm not really a coffee fan. I think I drank some coffee when I was little, and I was like, oh, this is what our grown-ups drink, and I had some black coffee, and it was disgusting to me. So I think that kind of stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I like the chameleon cold brew, because it tastes a little bit better. But I've done even the just using, like I said, the chai tea and some grass-fed raw cream, which is a little bit expensive, but it tastes it tastes amazing. And yeah, my brain's like fully turned on, and I usually do it on days that I'm not training, just because I'll usually want to eat a lot more. But like I said, I kind of did intermittent fasting this morning. Just did some coffee and some coconut cream before my workout in the morning. I did a full workout, and I feel fine. I haven't eaten since, and I feel good. And I'll probably eat a lot later on today, just because I did train today. So I'm gonna eat more. But yeah, I feel it's very convenient, especially as somebody who likes to cook. and not just cook bland food, but actually get creative in the kitchen sometimes. Sometimes that takes extra energy. Sometimes that takes extra dishes. And I don't like to do dishes, but it's helpful when one of your meals is pretty convenient and easy, and um, it makes it easier to throughout the rest of the day to actually, hey, now I only have to plan 2 meals instead of 3. I can get more creative, and in order to get back those nutrients, I'll just eat more, and I'm totally fine with that because I work out. So
Nice, nice. So I wanted to touch base. A lot of people, well, in the intermittent fasting community, a lot of the benefit comes from the fact that you're cutting calories, right? So when you're not eating for 20 hours, it's easy to cut calories in general because there's just less time to get all that food in. So a lot of the benefits come from the calorie cutting and the modified protein. So that's where those benefits come from. Now, the research shows that when people cut calories, in general, what's happening is they're also cutting sugar and they're also cutting carbohydrate. So when we're in this fasting state, we're in ketosis, and ketosis means that we're using fat as a means of fuel. So when I say fat, you're using acetoacetate, hydroxybutyrate, acetic acid, or acetone, that's more the breath type of thing. And these are our fat breakdown fuel that's kind of fueling our body. Now, here's the big thing on top of that that's important to note is you can still get some of these benefits by keeping the carbohydrate down, keeping the fat up, and keeping the protein moderate. You can still have some of these same benefits. In my opinion, the reason why you get this benefit by going low calorie is because the glycation is decreased. All right, so let's go over that word. Glycation is nothing more than sugar coating protein. So when we eat excess of sugar, we're coating the protein in our body with sugar. And that sugar glycates. It's like if you ever had creme brulee and they take the blowtorch over the sugar molecules and then it starts browning on top, that's glycation. So next time you see creme brulee, that's what's happening inside your arteries, is that browning, that oxidation. Now, that causes free radical damage. It's a magnet for free radicals, which come in and then damage your DNA and cause all kinds of inflammation in the body. So when we cut calories, we decrease glycation. Now, the next question is, I've already alluded to, is it possible to decrease glycation without cutting calories, with actually maybe eating more calories? And yes, that is possible by keeping your carbohydrates lower. And again, if you listen to our Ben Greenfield podcast, Ben has shown that he can keep his carbohydrates when he's training up to 200 carbs per day and still be in ketosis. While some people who are more metabolically damaged and can't handle that kind of exercise may need to keep their carbs down to 20 or 30, a la Jimmy Moore. Jimmy Moore talked about keeping his down to 20 or 30. So it's different for each person. And you may not have those cellular autophagy benefits unless you intermittent fast, but there are still benefits of being in nutritional ketosis that are still similar to intermittent fasting. So I don't want everyone to go out there and think, well, I have to just intermittent fast. If you're already kind of metabolically damaged, what I mean is your machinery, your adrenals, your thyroid, how your body takes in and breaks down glucose is damaged. Well, coming out and doing more of a lower carbohydrate ketogenic diet with your nutritional levels high because you're consuming a lot of vegetables and a lot of high quality meats and fats, you can still have adequate amount of calories, keep your blood sugar stable, and still have a lot of nutrition without going down to those lower calorie levels.
Yeah, definitely. And so last but not least, because you mentioned it briefly a couple times, but I really want to get into what is cellular autography.
Yeah, so cellular autophagy.
Or autophagy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, autophagy. That's basically you're recycling proteins in your body. The whole goal is like your body's constantly building up protein. Ideally, if you exercise, you're like breaking down protein, and then your body comes in and builds up protein based upon the neurological stimulus, based upon where all that workload is, and then that extra fuel of amino acids coming in will cause the body to build up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more as a means to defend itself. It's kind of like scar tissue. You keep on cutting yourself in a similar spot, the fibroblasts will get thicker and thicker and thicker, as a means of protecting it. The same thing with osteoporosis. We have Wolff's Law, where we have the piezoelectric effect, where we have this electro force gradient that stimulates more calcium in certain areas where force is. So we're kind of using that same type of effect with amino acids and building up our muscle. So alluding into your question is, our body is then we're going into that intermittent fasting state to recycle the amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We are recycling those amino acids, and that has an anti-aging benefit because you're activating mTOR, which is I forget the exact mammalian target of rapamycin. That has an anti-aging effect as well. mTOR does, and Ori Hofmeckler talks about that in his book, The Warrior Diet, as well. But we are able to recycle the protein. So instead of coming in and utilizing more calories for fuel, we're using the old protein that's already in our body. So it's like you're kind of hungry. Instead of going out to the restaurant and buying food, you just go and you sniff around what's already in your house, in your pantry, and you make something out of that. So we're just telling our body to scavenge around a little bit and just really be efficient and use what's still there as additional fuel source. And again, we have the insulin sensitizing effects. We have the activation of stem cells, which stem cells are kind of like blueprints to tell our cell to be, young and healthy again. It's like photocopying something, right? Once you get down to the 100th, 200th, 300th photocopy, it's not quite the same as the original. So stem cells kind of brings it closer to that original copy. Mm-hmm. And it tells the cell really where to be back in its healthy state, to keep it simple. And we're also having the effects of leptin and insulin sensitivity, which is going to get our appetite to be more sensitive. So we don't need as many calories to feel satiated. And that's important.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely beneficial when your body's not always in a go find food mode, right? And you're kind of satisfied. And like you mentioned, I think a really good way to summarize autophagy, which is it's being dyslexic for a minute and pronounce it totally wrong, but autophagy. A good way to think about it is almost like of like a house cleaning kind of role.
Yes.
In your body and saying like, okay, well, since we can recycle, and let's find the damaged cells, or even the cells that have damaged organelles, right? Like, oh, this mitochondria is messed up, this endoplasmic reticulum, this is messed up. Let's eliminate these or eliminate other intercellular damaged cells and take those and recycle those because those are broken anyways.
Exactly. That's really what it's all about. And it's good too, because a lot of disease that happens in our body, especially on the cancer side, is basically our body's inability to clean things up. Its inability to have programmed cell death, which is apoptosis, right? Very similar to autophagy, where we're basically telling ourselves to die, right? We're basically utilizing this build up breakdown mechanism, and we want to keep that present, because if our body just goes into this constant build up state and cells get out of control, we can have cancer. So it's really making sure our cells are able to communicate properly. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and I've heard that autophagy has been linked to like the non-apoptotic cell death. So yeah, definitely. It sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, like I have one article right here, is that they talk about cellular autophagy promotes, really, it promotes against instability, necrosis. That means basically your cell rotting or dying. It prevents against cancer, neurodegeneration, cardiomyopathy, diabetes, liver disease, autoimmune disease, and infections. So basically, it really helps regulate the cell at the molecular level and actually helps prevent disruption, really, that can lead to disease. So it's very important. If we can get this dialed in here and use it, it's going to be helpful.
Yeah, and then so when you talk about the infections, that's also its role when it's cleaning up other intracellular pathogens as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if someone's out there right now and they're like, all right, great, like we just talked about cellular autophagy and we talked about glycation and nutritional ketosis, where should we start? Well, one, if like you're already overweight and you don't feel too good and you're not too happy with yourself, well, I would just start with more of a nutritional ketosis approach, right? Get your carbohydrate to a level where you can see ketones in your urine and or your blood. That can be a really good start. Again, I'm not a huge fan of doing nutritional ketosis when you're doing lots of strenuous exercise. So get the diet and lifestyle dialed in first. Use nutritional ketosis if you're not the most healthy person off the bat. Okay, if you're already there and you're feeling pretty good, but maybe you're still stressed, choose one day a week, preferably on the weekend or a non-stressful day, and do an intermittent fast where you stop eating like around 7 p.m. the night before, and then you start eating again like around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Just give yourself a good 18 to 20 hour window of fasting. Try that one day a week on a non-stressful day. If you're good there, then maybe you want to throw in a bulletproof intermittent fast where you're adding in ketones such as ketone precursors such as MCT or grass-fed butter, which are great precursors for a lot of these ketones that I talk about. That's a really great source right there to start. And then also off the bat, if you're a person that's doing too much bulletproof fasting and your life's stressful, you may want to be careful. If you're having some symptoms, you may want to take a step back and not do the bulletproof intermittent fast every day. Start with choosing one day, preferably a weekend, and then maybe take one day during the week. But you also want to look at your calories because calories equal nutrition. And if you're just relying on your nutrition for coffee and MCT, that you may be missing out from the other sources of organ meats and grass-fed meats and some of the nutrients you get from organic vegetables as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll let you go ahead and wrap us up.
All right, great. So everyone here, feel free and check out beyondwellnessradio.com. Again, beyondwellnessradio.com/newsletter. You can get our show updates 1 to 2 weeks before shows go live on iTunes. Also, we have beyondwellnessradio.com/question, where you can literally speak your question to us. And what we'll do is we'll play your question live on the air, and we will answer your question. So feel free and take advantage of that. And again, check out my site, fixyourthyroid.com and justinhealth.com. If you're having female hormone issues or thyroid issues or adrenal issues, check out my free video series so you can tap into all of these health-changing modalities that can really improve your health. And again, Barris's info is Get Really Healthy Now. You can find his link on beyondwellnessradio.com. And we look forward to getting some great questions soon, and we'll have some guests back in the next few days. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com/question. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.